A first look on the first Monday at the men's defending champion. Tradition demands his presence to open proceedings on centre court, and fresh from his latest triumph in Paris, Rafael Nadal was ready to take on 33-year-old American Michael Rusell, who was believed to reach the second round at a major for just the fifth time in his 22nd Grand Slam appearance. Few gave him any chance, but early indications suggested he was determined to give a good account of himself. That gave him a break point, which was converted courtesy of a Nadal double fault. The advantage short-lived. One game later, Nadal, who'd never lost in the first round of a Grand Slam, was back on level terms. He broke again 2 games later and closed out the set with the minimum of fuss. A first step towards what he hopes will be an 11th Grand Slam title. Rusell had never beaten a top 10 player in 3 previous attempts. Any lingering hopes he may have been clinging on to must have evaporated when Nadal pounced on his serve at the start of the second. A set break to the good, everything was going as anticipated. To be fair, Rusell did his best to stay competitive. No one could criticise the effort he was putting into the match, but he was being stretched in more ways than one. He continued to entertain the crowd and give Rafa the odd awkward moment. A marvellous mix of defence and cunning used to good effect there. But there was only ever going to be one outcome, and Nadal duly wrapped up a straight sets win. One down, 6 to go for the top seed, whose appetite for success remains as ferocious as ever.
Following on from his success at Queen's a week ago, expectations have never been higher, as Andy Murray looks to become the first man since Fred Perry in 1936 to lift the coveted Wimbledn trophy. The unpredictable British weather meant this game was played under the covered roof of centre court, and the Scotsman had everything crossed that his opponent Daniel Gimeno-Traver wouldn't be raining on his parade. The Spaniard had never beaten a top 5 player in 4 previous attempts, and all the early signs suggested he might find the going tough. But incredibly, it was his opponent struggling to find his feet, and at 4 games apiece, Murray soon found himself a breakdown. The world number 59 looked to be turning the screw, and soon silenced centre court as he served out for the set. The difference of emotions clearly evident in both camps. Murray had never failed to make it past the first round of Wimbledon, so it was perhaps unsurprising when he stepped up a gear, taking the second set 6-3. Something at last for the fans to cheer about. He was now playing with a rejuvenated confidence, winning shots that have become his trademark and defy logic. And from there it was a case of mission impossible for the Spaniard, as the Scotsman blazed through the second set 6-love before storming to a 5-love lead in the third. His finish left no one in doubt that this year the world number 4 means business. So a shaky start ends at a comfortable win for Murray. Heads into the second round brimming with confidence, but still with the weight of a nation on his shoulders.
Blue skies and an appreciative crowd welcomed Roger Federer onto centre court for the start of his 13th campaign in SW19. Walking out alongside him was Kazakhstan's Mikhail Kukushkin, ranked 61 in the world and making his debut in the main draw. Looking supremely fit and extremely sharp, the 6-time champion constructed some vintage points in blustery conditions. Far from overawed, Kukushkin kept up with his illustrious opponent. That was Federer-esque. A tie-break was required, and at 2-3, the mini-break went the way of the Swiss maestro. Federer lost just 2 points on serve in the whole of the set and closed it out at the first time of asking. The second set followed a similar pattern. 23-year-old Kukushkin continued to impress, but Federer invariably had the answers when it mattered. As some unfriendly clouds gathered overhead, Federer stepped up another gear to break for a 3-2 lead.
Again, Federer.
Having been taken to 5 sets in his opening match 12 months ago, this was proving to be a far more comfortable introduction. He did have to save a couple of break points at 3-2 before confirming a 2-set lead. Kukushkin had done what he could, but it simply wasn't enough. The third set was something of a procession, and Federer's 97th win on grass was completed an hour and 42 minutes. A very satisfying start to what he hopes will be another very fulfilling fortnight, captured on home video.
After Andy Murray, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer got off to winning starts, it was the turn of Novak Djokovic to launch his bid to be Wimbledon champion for the first time. The 6'2" Serb has been in scintillating form all season, losing just once in his previous 44 matches. A worrying stat for his opponent Jeremy Chardy, who's never won a set, let alone a match against the world number 2. If the Frenchman was overawed by the venue or the man he was playing, he certainly didn't show it early on. Asking Djokovic questions he appeared to have no answers to. But there was always an air of inevitability hanging around centre court, and having taken a 2-week rest prior to these championships, the Serb looked refreshed and every bit a player at the top of his game. A break at 4 games apiece gave him the initiative before serving out the first set 6-4. Chardy had only progressed to the second stage in 3 of his previous 11 tournaments, and it quickly became clear that statistic was unlikely to improve here. The Frenchman's unforced error tally grew rapidly, with Djokovic's game count going the same way. The Serb even had time for a bit of showboating, before underlining why he's considered by most as the best player in the world. And from there, it became a procession, as the 24-year-old stormed to a 6-1 second set win before taking the third in similar fashion, wrapping up the match in just 1 hour and 20 minutes. The Serbian steamroller had flattened his French counterpart and looks like he could be the one to beat to this year's Wimbledn title.